The Republican operatives campaign is shutting down after damaging polling showed RFK Jr. was taking more voters from Trump than Harris. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign said in a Pennsylvania court filing on Friday that he will endorse former President Trump in the 2024 race. Why it matters: Kennedy had once been one of the biggest wild cards of the 2024 presidential election. But he struggled to find his footing after Vice President Harris entered the race, facing declining poll numbers and dwindling cash reserves. The court filing requests that Kennedy be removed from the Pennsylvania ballot. It comes just before he is scheduled to speak in Arizona about his path forward, where he was widely expected to announce that he is suspending his campaign and endorsing Trump. State of play: it's a dramatic turn for the independent presidential candidate and scion of one of America's most prominent Democratic political dynasties. Kennedy first launched his 2024 campaign running as a Democratic candidate. He had been polling in the low single digits for months as an independent but lost around half that support once Harris replaced President Biden. State of play: Kennedy and Trump met at the Republican National Convention last month, and discussions between the two men about a potential endorsement reportedly continued over the last several weeks. A leaked phone call revealed the former president telling Kennedy during the RNC that he would love for Kennedy to do something with his campaign. Kennedy insisted afterwards that he was staying in the race, but his rhetoric had grown more aligned with Trump and opposed to the Democratic ticket as the campaign wore on.
Zoom in. Nicole Shanahan, Kennedy's running mate, indicated earlier this month that the campaign was considering suspending its bid and joining forces with the Trump campaign. She said that the campaign's priority was to prevent a Harris-Walz administration. Polling after Harris became the Democratic nominee showed that Kennedy, once drawing about equally from both major parties, posed a greater threat to Trump.
Man polling at 9% throws his weight behind Trump. Trump is 5% behind Kamala nationally. It's actually a really big deal and will likely lock the election in for Trump. Anyone who says otherwise is either a partisan coping or a nufag who doesn't understand how tight elections are.
I can't decide if it's more hilarious that you think 100% of RFK Jr.'s voters would vote for Trump, or that you think RFK Jr. actually had 9% of the total electorate.
Guy who is legally liable of sexually assaulting a woman and expresses incestuous interest in his own daughter. Running with a guy that allegedly used furniture as a masturbation aid who complains about childless cat ladies. Accepts an endorsement from an anti-vaxxer who claims to be infected by brain parasites and admitted to staging a hoax at Central Park using a roadkill bear. Right-wingers are kinda weird, huh?
As weird as the guys who are voting for a woman who has expressly said that she will only release her policy platform after the election. Keck. You're a joke. I'm voting for their policy. You're voting for vibes, and now our guys have more vibe than you could ever comprehend.
I'm voting for their policy. Which policy? His plan to create a baseline tariff that would increase the price of most goods. His plan to not tax tips, which wouldn't affect people working in those kinds of jobs because they don't make enough money to begin with. His plan to continue to work on the wall even though it's useless considering most illegals aren't sneaking across the border but instead abusing the asylum system. His plan to deport millions of illegals, which aside from being unfeasible and expensive would cause labor shortages in several key industries, driving up costs. Why even bring up policy when Trump is one of the least policy-focused candidates ever?
The report's data indicates that people who earn less than $25,000 per year who claim earned income tax credits are among the most audited. This group of taxpayers have historically been targeted not because they account for the most tax underreporting, But because they are easy marks in an era when IRS increasingly relies upon correspondence audits yet doesn't have the resources to assist taxpayers or answer their questions, the report said. Millionaires, as discussed previously, did have the highest odds of being audited. However, if one ignores the fiction of auditing a millionaire through simply sending a letter through the mail, the odds that millionaires received a regular audit by a revenue agent, 1.1%, was actually less than the audit rate of the targeted lowest income wage earners. The report stated, "What rock have you been living under, Anon?